Here's the thing. If you're chasing a specific goal that's up here and you just happen to fall over here, you are probably 90% in a better position than everybody else who didn't try. All right. Welcome, everyone, to the #1 podcast in the world, where we give you an authentic look into the world's healthiest, wealthiest, and most inspirational minds. We talk about trending ideas, bold topics, and give you real-world examples that will inspire you to take action and become the #1 version of yourself. On today's topic,
chasing discomfort.
Chasing discomfort. We're talking about chasing discomfort.
Something we've talked about a little bit indirectly, but we're going to talk about it directly today.
Absolutely.
A few sub-thoughts in there. So what is actually the origination of this? This was really born from something you did recently.
That's true.
You went on an event, like a men's retreat.
I did.
And you told me kind of one of your primary takeaways was why it's important for people, or really this was focused towards men. But I think it applies to everybody probably in some way, but why it's so important to chase discomfort. So you want to talk a little bit about that, the event, maybe why you went on that event?
Yeah, 100%. So I ended up going on a men's retreat called Rise Up Kings. It was an unreal experience, like something I've never been a part of before. I flew to Dallas, Texas. I wasn't really sure what to expect on this journey. I thought it was just going to be like maybe a class.
You didn't check the weather, by the way.
I did not check the weather.
Your story, this man showed up. It was cold.
I left. Yeah, I did not check the weather. I ended up leaving with like a t-shirt and shorts, right?
Yep.
It was 20 degrees. And a t-shirt and shorts is exactly what I wore.
Fucked up.
In 20-degree weather. So, no, it was definitely an experience that like I can't talk too much about because it's different for every man, and it's something that they have to experience on their own. But if you are someone who's looking for personal growth in faith, family, fitness, and finance, this is the event for you. So I'll share some details about that later. But without like turning this into a hype for the event, one of the specific things that I learned on this journey was like the importance of chasing discomfort and what that means. There's something to be said for discomfort. Comfort, I think, is the enemy of the king that lives within each of us.
So let's dig in. What is comfort actually? Like, what do we mean by comfort? Is comfort like a good feeling? Is comfort the lack of discomfort? Is comfort just
I think
staying within the guardrails? Like, what do we actually mean?
Well, I think comfort is different for everyone. It could be binging Netflix. It could be when you get home from work after working your 9 to 5, you just want to sit home, smoke pot, drink a little bit, and just chill. That could be comfort for some people. For some people, comfort is the absence of the discomfortable conversations. Some people don't want to have hard conversations.
It's avoiding those things that you need to do.
Yeah. So everybody has something that they know they need to do.
Right.
Everyone has that thing.
So really, what comfort is in your life. Like and really I bring that up because a lot of people, I think face this challenge where when they try to apply some like mental framework to their life, they end up in this defense mode where they're saying, well, I'm not doing that because you didn't specifically call out, these behaviors or this looks like this. It's like, no, you know what we mean when we say, comfort, what are the things that you fall back into
exactly
as habits?
And it could be habits, it could be addictions, right?
Right.
But at the end of the day, what happens is like when we are constantly chasing comforts, we're not pursuing our purpose because your purpose does not lie in a position of comfort. Your purpose lies through a lot of difficult things that you have to do in order to get there.
Yeah.
And so if you are chasing purpose, you're going to have some uncomfortable shit happen.
Yeah.
If you're talking like spiritually, it's like if you're chasing something, like the devil's going to throw everything at you to try to get you to not hit that purpose. Because again, like we've talked about in the past, the opposite of chasing your purpose is to be drifting. Yeah. And a lot of that drifting takes place in a position of comfort.
Let's apply it in something I think everybody can understand, right? You've had a job for a while, and it's something you and I have both went through. You have a job.
Yeah.
It's comfortable. It's easy, 9 to 5.
Get your little check.
And you want a new job, right? You just want a better job. Your boss is nice. Yeah. Your coworkers are great. You all go out on the weekends. You have a really comfortable life. Like your entire social circle and what you do day to day is based in this current position, but you really don't like the position that you're in, right? And I think this is something that a lot of people face, knowing that you want a different job. You don't enjoy the work that you do. It's meaningless to you from a, life, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, remember the pyramid of needs? I know what's at the top there? Self-actualization, right?
Yeah.
You're not applying yourself in a meaningful way that would impress the child version of yourself, right? Sure. So you want a new job. And that, I think, is the type of comfort that everybody can relate to. And it requires you getting rid of all of these things, right? You're going to have to start a new relationship with a boss that maybe isn't as, buddy-buddy with you. You're going to have to change your social circle, right? So the people that you go to happy hour with every week, you might not get to see them if you're at a new job in a new side of town. Yeah. I think when we think about discomfort, it could be something as simple as getting a new job. It could be something as starting a new fitness regimen. Starting a business, yeah. Something like the really big, scary stuff, but it also applies to just the small things in our life that also make us unhappy and grind us down.
That's true. And I think, to go off a little bit further, that, sometimes, every time, that change comes with discomfort, because any type of change does, because you get so comfortable in certain routines. And if you ever moved into a new apartment, or you've ever gotten into a new relationship, or you left an old one, like you have this weird feeling where it's just uncomfortable, right?
Right.
And sometimes
doesn't feel good.
Sometimes it can even come with grief. So grief actually is not just when someone passes away. It's like any type of change in your life. Even the act of like moving from high school to college could cause people grief, because it's associated with change. Right. So grief is not comfortable, right? And so if you can learn how, oftentimes, every time growing up, we were always taught, all of us, how to acquire things. But we were never taught how to lose things, how to lose things properly.
That's big, man. That's a big thought. That's a reel right there. That's going straight to the gram. That's so true, though, because people tend to actually protect us from loss. Yeah. I think it goes so far as, not only did they not teach us this, they try to hide it from us. So it could be as simple as like your 7-year-old loses a toy, we'll go and replace it.
Exactly.
So that they don't have to experience this loss.
Well, that's one of the false beliefs of grief, is a lot of people, they get out of a relationship and they jump right into the next one. Right. And it's called replace the loss. That's something that people in grief deal with, because when they were growing up, their dog passed away, right? What did mom and dad do? Oh, it's okay, baby, we'll get you another dog. Right? Yeah. So it's replace the loss. And instead of taking the time to grieve that loss before moving on to the next one, they just jump into the next one and they never actually dealt with it. So they're carrying baggage with them everywhere. Yeah. And I know that this wasn't really the topic of like,
this is great,
but I think it's a great detour. Because again, every uncomfortable situation is going to put you in a position where you have to grow. You have to get better. You have to, change as an individual, and that change is hard. But it's in that change that you push through the discomfort that you end up becoming a better person. One of the things that we had to do on this retreat, amongst many, was I don't even know how much I can talk about, to be completely honest, but there was one specific event where we had to do something very, very challenging in the freezing cold. Right. Outside, I've been outside for 7 hours freezing in 20-degree weather. After leaving Miami, it was 80 that week. Right. Yeah. And then we go to Texas, I'm freezing. And then I had to do something, that involved an ice bath. Yeah. And it was just I didn't want to do it. And I went last. I literally went last out of every man there, because I did not want to go that bad. Yeah. And,
but hey, testament, he's still here.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I'm saying? You're here.
You know what I realized through that was the buildup. First of all, it was terrible. Yeah. Doing it was actually not fun at all. Yeah. And getting out when it's freezing, 20 degrees and windy.
It wasn't like relief.
It was even colder than the ice bath, right? Yeah. But it's what I realized was I spent close to maybe 40 minutes leading up to it in mental anxiety and anguish because of how much I did not want to do it. Right. And it was worse leading up to it than actually experiencing it.
Yeah. And how long were you in there? Like 3 minutes?
Yeah,
tops,
3-4
probably?
minutes.
Yeah.
Right.
So ice baths, you never stay in an ice bath for that long.
So it was the actual, it was sometimes we create all these stories in our head because we don't want to go through that uncomfortable situation. Mm. And oftentimes it's on the other side of that uncomfortable situation that some glorious, incredible thing happens, something where our business all of a sudden blows up because all we had to do was fire that one employee, but we spent 6 months dragging our feet because we didn't want to hurt that person's feelings. You know what I mean? And so it's you spend all this time. How many times do we put off or procrastinate on knowing that we have to do something uncomfortable? And then once we do it, we're like, wow, that was great. Look at where we're in such a better position now.
Yeah. I mean, I firmly believe, and this is one of the things I found in my own life, and that I try, and really part of the reason I really want to do this podcast is to get people to realize some of the things that I've realized, right? But some things you can only be learned trial by fire, right? We all understand that fire is hot, but literally every human alive has been physically burned, right? You can't tell a child not to touch hot things. They're going to touch it, and then through their own experience, they'll understand that that's dangerous. And that's the same thing with a lot of what we're talking about today. you know, I think on the flip side of like happiness or self-worth is you can explain these things to people, but until you've really applied yourself and pushed yourself to your own limits and experienced that pain and then got on the other side of your own limits, then people can have that realization.
Yeah.
You know, so the best that we can do is try to motivate you and push you to that ledge.
But you got to go through it.
Yeah, you got to jump off the cliff at the end of the day. You know, like it really is that tough, people. And if you're someone who's listening or watching videos like this constantly and still haven't taken the leap, you know, I'll say what probably a lot of other people have said is that you just have to do it. You're not going to experience or feel that burn until you've been burned, right? But I mean, it's in a good way. Like you physically have to do this. There's no other way about it. And I think as really animals, if you think of humans as like primal beings, so much of what makes us happy is doing work or doing hard work or experiencing hard things.
We were built for work.
Yeah, like the happiest people are pursuing something or doing something, you know, into perpetuity. There isn't like this end state, right? Whether it's, you know, even if they're calm, if their life seems very calm and, you know, unbusy, they probably are spending a lot of time doing like mental activities, right? Maybe it's meditation, or they're cultivating something, right? But that's really where you see people who are truly happy is.
Well, that's why there's a lot of people that they're miserable once they retire. Like they're cool for like a year, and then they're like, "What do I do?"
Yeah, because
they either go back to work part time, or they start a business, or they do something, you know. But the idea that how fast do you think your mind and your body will decay if you just stop doing shit?
Right. We've never, at no point in your life have you ever not done shit, right?
You got to do something.
Everyone's like, oh, I wish I could be a kid again. Think about your childhood. You'd wake up, sprint to your friend's house, right? You go do shit all day.
Ride your bike around.
Come home, and then you pass out. And that was your childhood. It was like doing stuff constantly.
Always.
It was the happiest part of our lives. But to get back on topic, because we're way diverging, right? So chasing discomfort, you talked about your experience in the ice bath. Part of, I think that, and one of the other things you actually talked about is preparing for challenges, right? So let's flip that. Let's juxtapose that to what you said, where you spent 40 minutes being anxious about getting in the ice bath when you could have just maybe meditated and calmed yourself, right? So when you talk about, what are your thoughts on preparing for challenges? Well, that's huge. Just in general, instead of, you know, facing them.
Yeah, that's huge. Well, you know, recently I was in an organized event where, like we had to get in the ring and we had to fight someone. Yeah. And this was another like mental exercise in a retreat where it was meant for self-development and growth, right? Yeah. And I'm a huge proponent of these now. Yeah. But you know, I was at this event and I had to get in the ring and I had to fight someone. Yeah. And leading up to this, like I got my gloves on and my little helmet and I'm mad. Right. And I'm like, I'm going to do this. I had every will and desire to win. Yeah. And I'm getting ready. I'm hyped. I'm like, there's no way I'm losing. I'm this motivated. There is no way that I'm losing this. Right. And I get in the ring and I get my ass kicked. Yeah. Like bad.
Just smoked.
Bad. Right. Yeah. And I mean, I held my own. I kept getting up, but I got knocked down probably 6-7 times. It was two 1-minute rounds. So it's really quick, you know, nothing crazy. But in that short period of time, I got my ass handed to me, right? Yeah. And so what it taught me on the other side of it was there's so many areas of my life where I have every desire to win, every ambition. I'm super motivated. I want it. I've got the will to win. But how many times do I show up and lose because I was unprepared? Yeah. If I was a seasoned fighter and I had been preparing for this fight, I would have gotten in the ring and I probably would have, it would have turned out a completely different way, right? Yeah. I probably would have won.
You at least would have felt differently about it. And I think this is why actually I think a lot of people quit is they get excited about the new shiny thing, right? Yeah. Like, oh, I'm gonna go after this. And they jump into it with, you know, that will, the strongest will to win, completely unprepared. Either the game or other people, right? Their opponent hands them their ass, right? They get their ass handed to them. And then what happens to a lot of people is they crater immediately. They're like, oh, I'm not meant for this. It's like you just jumped into it. Like you need more than excitement and willpower to do a lot of the stuff. It's true. That's really hard in life. It takes a lot of preparation, training.
Yeah, what people don't see. I mean, think about you with your dancing. Like we talked about it before when what was the spin or whatever that you were talking about?
I think I was talking about learning halos.
Yeah, so you're doing halos, and it's like how many hours and hours or years of practice and preparation did you have to put in order to
I mean, for me, it took a long time. So I think I talked about it probably on the first episode. So that was a move where I actually broke my right ankle. I think I crashed it. I was actually training with my mentor who's not in frame right now. He's sitting over here. Literally just because I'm getting older, my ankle barely hit the ground, broke. You know, at that time, I'm not going to lie, like and I won't spend too much time on this, I was like, damn, like breaking is hard. Like maybe I should stop, you know? Yeah. Got past that, don't think that at all, but it's very easy, like, cause we're emotional beings, but like when we experience pain, it's almost automatic for us to be like, I don't want to do the thing that caused me pain. Right?
Exactly.
And that's what I was feeling. But now I'm still training, doing them. But it takes
years of
like
practice.
A lot of practice. It takes more than just wanting
and that's,
to do a move
it's more than
or get
a desire.
in the ring.
It's hardcore preparation. And that's the thing is like you see these people on the TV and they're fighting. You don't know how many hours and hours and hours of practice they had to put in order to dodge that fist, or in order to jab, or in order to do whatever move they did that knocked that dude out. Yeah. And you don't know how many times they broke their nose, got their ears busted, did whatever they had to do, popped a rib. You don't know how many things had to happen, how many uncomfortable situations took place to lead up to that win or that loss, right?
Right.
And so this was a huge lesson for me in how many other areas of my life do I show up in with the desire to win and I fail because I was not prepared. And there's so many areas in my spiritual life, in my finances, I make great money, but then I show up and I make a poor investment, or I do something, or I make a dumb decision with it, right?
Blow it all. Yeah.
Blow it all because I didn't make preparations. And say, when you have preparations and you have like a target, again, the talk of drifting, you will not drift or desire or move into desires that are not in alignment with that.
I know you and I want to talk on money, because that's, I think a lot of people watching this, we put a lot of things in the financial aspect, right? Making money, keeping it, yada, yada. But I think one of the first things that you experience when you first make a lot of money is you blow it
on stupid shit.
Blow it on stupid shit, God, man. And why is it? Because we did not plan what to do with the money once you got it, right? You spend all this time planning on how to get the money. Then nobody's like, yo, now that I got this check, it's 99%. I don't know a single person actually when they first got their first check who didn't lose most, if not all of that.
Yeah,
shit.
It's true. I still get a big check.
It's such a natural
sometimes.
Yeah, man. But
no, but
that's
you're
true. Not planning what to do with it.
But you know what it is because you get a huge check, right? And then you want to chase some comfort, right? Because you were potentially, certain months when I first got into the business, it's like I didn't make shit for like 6 months, and I was in a very uncomfortable situation, eating ramen or whatever I was eating, fast food, Taco Bell, right? And like sleeping on a couch, right?
Yeah.
And then like the first thing I wanted to do was go blow it on a nice apartment, do this, do that, do all these things. And it was like I was chasing comfort. Yeah. And then what happened is I was super comfortable, and then I didn't make another huge check for 6 more months. So now I'm like stressed out about how the hell am I going to afford where I'm at? Instead of just, if I had prolonged my short phase of discomfort, I could have been, I could have like gained 3 years.
Yeah. So if you just enjoy the process, and really we talk about this bit, but like if you keep chasing discomfort or accepting a reality, there's a lot of ways we can talk about this. Not life inflation, right? Don't buy. Cars is a great example. Like there's a ton of cars I could go buy. It's not going to change my life in any meaningful way, guys. Like if I sold my M2 and bought a Lambo tomorrow, there's not a single thing about my life that would change other than my car maintenance bill would skyrocket. 100%. I'd be doing the same shit. I would just have a nicer car. And that's what a lot of people don't get is like, there's a lot of ways to improve your life in terms of like time freedom, like food, health, downside risk. I think the real reason to make money is security and knowing that there's nothing that can really come at you that's going to like destabilize your life. But on the other side, like I can't get a nicer phone than the iPhone. And that's how a lot of stuff is in life. It's like, there's no way to improve. It is the best phone that there is, So same with cars and, real estate or whatever. It's like everything has to be very planned, and there's going to be a purpose to it because it's infinite. There's infinite ways to spend money. It's just absolutely infinite.
Well, that's what. So what I've done now is in my 4 pillars: faith, finance, fitness, family. I've created 90-day metrics that I have to hit.
Yeah.
So in 90 days, I have a certain goal and a vision of where I want all 4 of these pillars to be: my relationship with my family, my financial situation, my investments, property, right? In my faith, certain things that I want to have, and my fitness too. And I have these targeted goals that I need to hit. And so now I'm coming up with the preparations that I need to do in order to hit that goal. Because I'm not just going to all of a sudden, for instance, so we went back to the fight thing. Let's go back there for a second. So I decided that I was going to register for a fight.
Nice.
In 8 weeks. It's on March 26th. I decided
soon.
I'm going to register for a fight. And I have no experience fighting whatsoever. But my thing is like, if I want to get in the ring and like box around or go to some classes, I'm going to probably do it realistically for 2-3 days, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks. And then I'm never going to do it again. I'm going to fall off because there is no reason why I'm doing it.
Again, you skip the one practice and then it turns into 2 practices.
There's no why.
And then you never go again.
There's no why, right? There's no goal. There's no goal. There's no target. So it's like, if I know that in 8 weeks I have to fight someone again, I got to get back in the ring and fight someone. Dude, I'm going to be there 3 days a week with my personal trainer and 2 classes a week. And I'm going to be strength training so that I know like there's something that I have to do. There's a target that I need to hit. Yeah. And this is what I have to do in order to get there. It's going to create new disciplines. And at the end of that fight, whether I win or lose, I will have created disciplines that will carry me the next, hopefully, few years, you know, if not my lifetime.
Yeah.
So that's
hardcore, man.
Yeah.
That's hardcore.
And it's like, you know, and when I told my parents, they're like, are you crazy? Are you out of your mind? Like,
well,
you know,
let's be realistic here. This is crazy.
It is crazy.
It is crazy.
Dude, but everything worth chasing is crazy.
I support it because, I mean, it goes back to even how we started the pod, right? You mentioned it, like we talked about it and then I started buying stuff the next day, right? Otherwise, I just want to be here. And there's probably better execution that I could have did with the podcast. For sure. Same with the fight, right? Yeah. Like I got 2 extra cameras I don't use now because I just started buying stuff. But my goal was to produce a podcast, right? It wasn't to have the right camera, have the right mics, have the right blah, 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 blah. I was like, all right, we need to make a podcast. So I started getting stuff to make a podcast and then we sorted it out later. Yeah. Same with the fight. However it goes, you know, maybe you do another fight, maybe you don't, whatever. You know, I think that sometimes, right, that's the best thing you do is like, all right, I'm just going to do this because how long would it take you? Like, how do you determine how long you should wait for your first fight? You know, should it be 16 weeks? Should it be, you know, that you could get closer to a better answer, but at the end of the day, you just got to pick a time. But I think you're going to learn a lot faster after going through this process. Well,
this is the other thing is I think if you set a time goal on something, you'll find a way to make it happen.
Yeah, you have to.
Like if I said, you know, I'm gonna fight someone in 3 years.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fuck off for the next 6 to 12 months. I'm literally not gonna train. I'm gonna go to maybe a class or 2. Like I have there's no reason.
No pressure.
There's no pressure. There's no reason. And this happens in business too. If I say I'm going to make $1 million in 3 years, I'm literally going to screw off for the next 6 months.
Right.
Because it's like, it's so far away.
You got to think about stuff. I think about this. This is how I think about stuff for myself, actually. I was like, what if I had to make $1 million this year? I was going to die. You know? Like that's how I was sitting at my desk. I was thinking about that. I was like, cause I really want to make $1 million in the markets this year trading. Right. So not just $1 million net worth, but like $1 million liquid assets. And I was like, what if I had to make $1 million or someone was going to kill me? What would I do? Right. And when you think about things from that perspective, it completely changes like what I'm doing when I'm sitting at my desk. You know, like if I'm tired, I was like, yo, what if I don't make $1 million, I'm going to die. You know, it changes. Like that pressure is what you need sometimes.
That's why it has to be. I'm telling you, if you want anything, it has to be that extreme.
Yeah, you gotta be that
extreme, bro. Insane. How stupid is it for me to hop in a fight with no experience in 8 weeks? That's the stupidest thing anybody.
That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard today.
But do you not think I'm gonna train like a maniac for the next 8 weeks?
I already know. Like next week, you're gonna be like, I'm gonna be like, hey dog, you want to box?
You know what I mean? Nah. But it's because like if you. And it's stupid and nobody will understand. I've told maybe a couple people already and they're all like, you're an idiot. Yeah. Like I would never do that. And that's why you're never going to hop in the ring and you're never going to say that you did this.
Yeah.
You know, and how many times there's so many successful people that are like, you know, I am doing X, Y, Z and everybody's like, you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? That's stupid because we've talked about it before. They don't believe that they could do it for themselves or they think it's completely maniacal.
Yeah. You can't, you know, obviously, you know, people who have done what you're doing can provide great feedback. But yeah, most people like they can't measure you. They don't have the yardstick, you know, the measure where you're going. It's impossible. So.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like it doesn't have to be perfect. Like you said, you were just buying equipment for the podcast. It wasn't perfect. And I'm sure I'm going to get up there and who knows what's going to happen, right? Yeah. It's not going to be perfect, right?
You got this, bro.
You know, it's not going to be perfect.
I'm in the corner like, hey.
But dude, here's the thing. If you're chasing a specific goal that's up here and you just happen to fall over here, you are probably 90% in a better position than everybody else who didn't try.
Right.
Or who didn't set that far out.
And you're going to know a lot about boxing. Like in this 8 weeks, having gone through this expedited process, then had you just said, I'm just going to start taking boxing classes. Yeah. If you were just taking boxing classes for 8 weeks, you'd know a bit about boxing, but going into and like trying to like cram literally physically and mentally as much boxing knowledge into your body and brain in this period, you're going to know a lot more.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there's multiple ways you can look at it, but we're looking at it from the perspective of, you know, conquering challenges.
Yeah, where, like, what other areas in your life can you implement this strategy?
Right.
Like, I'm obviously taking it to a pretty extreme level. Like, it doesn't need to be like that, you know, but
it needs to be like that.
But I'm thinking, you know, where else in your life could you show up with some outlandish, unrealistic goal that everybody else thinks is insane? People think you're crazy and people are completely against it, and just show up and dominate.
Yeah.
And whether you win or lose, whether you achieve or fail, you're going to end up in a better position than most. And if you don't, even if you fail and you lose everything, you still tried, and there's going to be massive lessons that you garnered because of that.
Yeah, man. You don't know, again, going back to pushing your limits, it's not something you're going to understand until you do it. Argue with people about this. And people have even told me that I'm kind of an asshole about this, but I know I'm right. You know, like you can't, when I think back to my days as like on the track when I was running, and like all the days where I ran like my fastest times, right? Yeah. Like, and back then, like I really wanted to go to the Olympics. I came out of high school. I was undefeated in high school. My ego was massive, right? Went to college, started taking some L's, right? Because I was racing against all the other fastest people in the country.
Yeah.
But you have to be, you know, if I look at the mental roller coaster that I went through in college when I started losing, my lack of confidence, it wasn't until I started doing well again once I started believing I couldn't lose, even though I could lose, right? Like, but once I got back into that, like that mindset of like, I'm just going to be faster than these people today. Like, however, and just run as hard as I can, even if I die. I'm going to run so hard I might die. And a lot of people like,
you always take it to die, bro.
It's because it's the ultimate pressure, right? I think it's something. It's an easy mental exercise. It's like, hey, you got to bench press this weight. Maybe it's like 10 pounds over your PR.
Yeah.
Right. The heaviest you've ever benched. I said you need to do 10 pounds better than your heaviest you've ever benched, or I'm gonna put a bullet in your head. You think you'd bench it? You'd probably bench it. I guarantee you would. It's 10 pounds.
Yeah.
Right. You would start rationalizing backwards, like, oh, it's just 10 pounds. If I said, hey, you got to bench 10 pounds more than you've ever benched in your life, and I'll buy you ice cream, you'd be like, bro, you know, the risk reward ratio doesn't match, right? Yeah, so I think when you apply the right pressures, people can start to rationalize into being successful
100%.
As opposed to rationalizing themselves out of being successful, which is what a lot of us do because we're not applying the right pressures. We go back into comfort where it's like, I don't need to work this hard today. I'll get there later.
Exactly.
But
it's procrastination. Yeah. And the other thing is going back to the track too. It's like, you know, when you are completely fatigued, you are gassed to your end.
Yeah.
And you have no more in you. You're really, statistically speaking, only at 40% capacity.
Yeah, man.
When you feel like you're going to die and you're about to, like, your body's going to give up on you, you're only at 40%.
That's
you still have another 60% in you.
That's just your brain. And that's one of those things you don't know until you, like, I'm telling you, man, like, there was some events where, like, I ran so hard where I was like, I don't even know how I ran that fast. And then you literally, like, went to sleep. Like, I crossed the line, brain turns off.
Your brain does turn off.
That's truly, like, everything in the tank. Like, I was just knocked out, dead. And I woke up because somebody was waking me up. Like, everybody in every aspect of your life, you have to find that limit and get into that limit and get through it at least a few times, right?
Yeah.
Because that carries on into everything else, right? Like, I don't run anymore. I don't run at all, actually, because my knees hurt. They're messed up. But that's okay because really what I can do, and, you know, whether it's taking an ice bath, getting in the ring, or whatever it is, you can apply these experiences into other struggles where your brain is sending you that signal of like, hey, you should stop because this hurts, or I don't like this, or I don't know what the outcome is going to be, or, you know, I'm scared of being hurt emotionally, and realizing that you're in a mental feedback loop or cycle that's automatic.
Yeah.
Right? This is an automatic reaction to this situation instead of a conscious reaction to the situation of saying, maybe the outcome is going to be different than what I first thought. Or maybe I can do this if I do X, Y, or Z.
That's big.
Right? If you get out of that primal state, that primal feedback loop, and start applying yourself to the situation, you know, you can be successful or even just do better than you thought you would. You know, it's not always about winning. It's just about, you know, not crashing and burning.
That's true. Well, that feedback loop actually comes into a lot of trauma.
Yeah.
People that have experienced trauma in any aspect, whether it was when you were young, especially when you were young, but you know, if you've been in a relationship or something happened, you're going to automatically avoid certain people because you have this feedback loop where I've been here before and this is how that's going to go.
Yeah.
Right. Or you're going to avoid certain situations, certain bosses, certain companies, certain aspects in business, certain business partners, because you've had a similar experience in the past where you might have got sold and you got burned or something happened. And then you immediately try to rationalize on that automatic feedback loop why it's going to happen again.
Exactly.
And so, you know, it's like you got to break that. And the only way to break that is, again, to get into an uncomfortable situation. You know, and so I like, you know, anatomy, they've got like the ice baths there.
Yeah.
And they've got, you know, certain things. And then even doing cryo or doing something that like is physically uncomfortable. What I learned the most through this past retreat that I went to was I could go into a classroom and I could learn something, right? It might have an impact on me. It might not. I'll probably retain it for like a week or two, and then I'll completely forget about it if it's in a classroom style. But if you have something that you learn that is associated with a physical discomfort or physical pain that you had to push through, you will literally remember it forever.
Yeah, it gets ingrained.
It gets ingrained in your body.
Yeah.
And so that's huge. So that was one of the things that was most impactful for me. So if you're going through a challenge like a change, trauma, freaking grief, whatever it is, like you could get through it by, it sounds crazy, putting yourself into more discomfort.
Yeah.
More discomfort.
I love that, man. I think we wrap it on that, unless you have another thought. This has been a great episode, y'all. I hope you appreciated this. Here are my closing thoughts. Continue to chase discomfort, you know, in all aspects of your life. Big and small. I would even say focus on the small things. I think we often try to change our lives by making these big drastic changes, but it really is the small things. You know, your life, your days, your weeks, and your months are all the result of your daily activities, you know, down to the minute and the hour. So I think about my life. It's useful. You don't have to live your life the way that I live it. I'm just telling you how I live mine, and you can take the lessons for yours. But definitely something you should think about and try to apply in some way. Would love your feedback down in the comments. Definitely subscribe if you haven't. You're crazy. If you're still watching this long, you owe us a subscribe at this point.
100%.
Love and appreciate you. Hit the like button. Share this with 2 of your friends, maybe 3 if you got that many. Andrew, what else?
We appreciate y'all for listening. Thank you. If you have any topic ideas, we would love to hear them. Put them in the comments. Send us a DM on Instagram. You can find me at Drew's The Move. Where can they find you?
Forrest the Investor.
Yep. And you can also follow us on Instagram at the #1 podcast in the world. We would love to hear from you. Give us some feedback. We'd love to hear both criticisms and praise. We would absolutely love that. And any topic ideas, again, we'd be happy to talk about those. If you're interested in being featured as a guest, DM us as well. And we'd be happy to have you on the show.
Yeah, definitely if you're in Miami. If you're in the Miami area, also, you're welcome if you're not in Miami. But if you're in Miami, studio over here is in Midtown. Super easy to get to.
Yep.
We'd love to have you. Chat about anything you like. We can talk about you. We can talk about what you're doing. So
becoming the #1 version of yourself.
Appreciate it.